Echoes from the Valley, telling the African story.
All over the world, as many as 150 million girls are raped or subject to sexual violence each year.
He was doing it. He was doing it. Whenever I'm at home with him, he was doing it.
May 31st, 2020, a 23-year-old undergraduate student of University of Benin in Nigeria, West Africa, was raped and murdered in cold blood, right inside a church building where she went to study. Her name was Owaela Vera Omozua. On October 17, 2018, after suffering serial rape by father and son and spending a number of days at a hospital being treated for vesico-vaginal fistula and other resultant complications, 13-year-old Ochanya finally gave up the ghost. On and on the stories of rape go all over the world with a devastating record of casualties, some to death, while others to a lifetime of brokenness. Fortunately for a few, fatally broken but not destroyed.
I grew up with my mom's elder sister who happens to stay in Port Harcourt. So primarily my grandmother did the upbringing, and then my auntie came to pick me up from the village to Port Harcourt. So when growing up in the village, of course my mom left me 3 days after she gave birth to me. Okay, because I'm sure she couldn't take care of me. That was why she left. So I was left with my grandmother. So grandmother did a little bit of the upbringing, and then my auntie came to pick me up from the village. So I started staying with her in Port Harcourt alongside with my cousins, my two cousins.
Of sexual abuse cases reported to law enforcement, 93% of juvenile victims knew the perpetrator, 59% were acquaintances, 34% family members, while just 7% were strangers to the victim.
I was between 7, 8, yes. At least I still had sense. Of course, I could still remember some things, So I started staying with her. Her husband, who happened to be a pastor, and we lived a normal kind of church life. So thereafter, my mom's elder brother, came to stay with us in Port Harcourt. So he came to learn a handwork in Port Harcourt, and from there, my auntie will always, leave him with me, with him. Whenever she's going out, she's like, okay, Kalu, take care of Oluchi, I'm going out. I wasn't going to school when I came back from the village. It was my two cousins that were going to school at that time. So I was always with him at home. When my auntie leaves me alone with my uncle, he will always, call me to his room. And then he will, bring out his, and then he will tell me to drink his urine. So I will, of course, there was nobody at home and there's nothing I can do. So I will, he will put his dick in my mouth and I will drink his urine until he's finished peeing. And then, that wasn't just the only time he did that. And he raped me too. He will even give me his sperm, I don't know how he brings it out, but he will bring it out and then he will call me to, he will pour it in my mouth. You understand? And I would lick it, And then in the evening, when my auntie comes back, he would tell me that I shouldn't dare to say anything that has happened.
Echoes from the Valley, telling the African story.
Intimidation, isolation, and silence are major tools used against victims of abuse such as rape, where victims do not have anyone to confide in. They rather remain in their shells. This was the case for Oluchi.
I didn't have that environment to talk to anybody because my auntie wasn't the type of person, you could, go beside her and tell her what is happening. And of course, my uncle was a very caring person, but of course, I felt that I can't just go ahead and tell my uncle because my auntie was going to beat me. So that fear of that beating or whatever was going to happen made me to keep quiet. In the evening, whenever my auntie comes back, she will always see me going to hide in one corner, and she won't even bother to ask me what was happening. Of course, she doesn't care anyways. So it happened over and and over again. Over many times it happened. We had no neighbors. Our compound were just us, only us. And my cousins were not that kind of people that you could talk to because nobody had time. You understand? Nobody had time, and I just felt as a child my auntie hated me because there was some kind of domestic violence. Whenever I did something that I didn't do it well, so she would always beat me, and sometimes she would even hit my head on the wall. So there were a lot of domestic violence from her own end. So there was nobody I could talk to. There was no room to talk to anybody. Constantly, whenever I come back from school in the afternoon, she would wait for me in the corridor, and then she would, search, empty my bag, and if she doesn't see anything that is not mine, she will beat me and whatever. In fact, up till now, I still have waist problem because there was one day she, mortar pestle. There was a day she used mortar pestle to hit my waist. So up till now I still suffer kind of waist pain. I still feel it. You understand? So those things that she were doing affected me in school and even up till now.
All over the world, young girls are more vulnerable to rape as a result of dependence and a longing to satisfy a need. Left without proper parental care, young girls fall victims to men who would offer to meet their needs for an exchange. To such men, life is a game of survival, giving what you have to get what you want.
Okay, so I remember a certain afternoon, I went to ask him for 10 naira to buy a toy that I saw with my friends. They were playing with it. So I went to meet him to give me 10 naira if I could go get it. So he told me that I should allow him to, that will I allow him to give what he used to give to me, or I should leave the 10 naira. Of course, what he used to give to me was the thing, So I thought, because I wanted the toy so badly, you understand, and he was the only one I could run to give me the money, because I know my auntie will not give me. Of course, as a child, you want to, play with what your friends are using to play with, So I told him. Okay. So he went to his room, and he gave me his urine again, and after then he gave me a 10 naira. I don't know what he was gaining, doing that, I never understood, even up to today. I don't know what he gained, from doing that. Of course, he was mentally okay upstairs, but I don't know what he was gaining. So I took the money and I went to buy the toy, and then I came back home. I started playing with it. So in the evening, when my auntie came back, she was like, "Who gave me toy? Who did I take toy from?" I said, "No, that Kalu gave me money to go to. Brother Kalu gave me money to go and buy the toy." So she was like, "Is that what I'm supposed to be doing now? Or is that what I'm supposed to be doing?" So she took the toy from me and she scattered it. It was a very small, rubber bicycle. You understand? Those bicycles that you draw it and the tire will roll. So she took it from me and smashed it. And I started crying. I was crying. I wasn't crying because she broke the toy. When such thing is happening to you, you start becoming mature early. So I wasn't crying because she broke the toy. I was crying because my uncle paid. I paid, paid for the toy before, and she broke it. So now me having to go now and buy another toy means that I will still have to go through that same process, to buy another toy.
Echoes from the Valley, telling the African story.
Africans are great people.
I am proud of Africa.
Africa has a splendid beauty that has to be experienced.
The world cannot do without Africa.
We have got to tell our story.
Echoes from the Valley, telling the African story.
When parents birth children, they are automatically vested with a duty of care. But where this is lacking, it gives room for predators to feast on the vulnerable.
When I was in Port Harcourt, my mother, she came into our house in Port Harcourt. She had the job in Port Harcourt, and when she will always tell me that whenever she comes to see us in Port Harcourt, in the house in Port Harcourt, she will always tell me that she regretted giving birth to me. Yes, she told me I was a mistake. My own mother. So she told me I was a mistake. So everybody hated Oluchi. I felt, why was my own case, different from the others? What did I do? What was my offense that I am being treated? My auntie's violence, still continued. So further than I entered secondary school. So when I was in secondary school, I was already, I don't know. That's sometimes when I come back from school, I would want to use a razor to, slit my hand. There are times whereby I will just go and hide. Just hide at the back of the chair. You understand? Like, just hide there. Not that I cannot sit on the chair. I can sit on the chair, but I will just go and hide at the back of the chair, and I'll just be there on my own. You understand? So my auntie thought that I was spiritually possessed. You understand? That why will I be doing abnormal things? Why will I be hiding at the back of the chair? Why will I be, That was when it started. There were so many times I almost, took my life. I almost attempted suicide. Yes. So many times, but something kept on stopping me. I kept on holding back because I knew there was better tomorrow.
The psychological implication of sexual abuse cannot be overestimated. For those who survive, they live the rest of their lives in depression. Generally, their social lives never remain the same.
Even at this age, I still suffer depression. is because of what I went through during my childhood. Like, up till now, I still have mental breakdown. I still suffer a lot, from what happened. At a point, I was going half mental, but she felt that I was possessed. I was spiritually possessed. So she would take me to pastors, they would pray for me, they would put me under deliverance section, but I knew that was not what was wrong with me. I knew it was something different from being spiritually possessed. You understand? Till now, even as an adult, I still have that flashes. There are times I will just cuddle my pillow and I'll start crying. I'll just start crying and I'll cry, and I'll clean my eyes. I'm going to take my bath. I'm like, I'll back to the woman that I am. Sometimes I want to talk to somebody, not my family members, not anybody. I'll just pick up my phone and call my customer, a family turned customer. Understand? I'll just call her. I'll cry and cry and cry. I'll cry and talk and cry and talk. She's like, okay. She will talk to me and I will calm down. But even when I cry, I don't tell them what I have gone through in the past. Do you understand? Because I don't know where to start telling them from. How the view they will look at me. You understand? Even relationship-wise, I am scared to even tell someone who I will be dating that, look, I was raped and this is what I went through, because the man might want to use it against you later in the future. Maybe when you guys are arguing and you be like, no be you where they rape, no be you where they pour sperm for mouth. You understand that kind of a thing, and it will bring back memories. So the thought of me even wanting to have a relationship and share such a thing with the man is a nightmare on its own.
Echoes from the Valley, telling the African story.
One of the dangers of sexual abuse is that victims always seek closure. Most times, revenge is the only way out.
My uncle, I won't call him my uncle. He's not my uncle. Carlo, his name. He's married and he has a girl child. And for me, I still feel depressed even as an adult, and I've forgiven him, but I feel if I don't see him suffer, I feel cheated. You understand? So even if it's a little bit, I don't want to see him suffer a bit, so that I can be free, because I feel cheated and he is still alive. So that is what I want.
Women who have been abused severally, women through every other means, that they have begun to react. They have begun to become extreme. They started drugging their husbands and they started killing. So these are the backlash that's come out from trying to pacify society and not focusing on the survival. So you hear that sometimes when they say there can't be peace without justice. Now you have asked her to keep quiet because so that she can marry. Would you know what will happen to her in that marriage? Do you know how a lot of girls don't even care about marriage anymore because of a lot of these things?
The culture of silence is synonymous to Africa, especially in cases of abuse. It is viewed as a way of escaping stigmatization, victimization, and discrimination.
Because of stigmatization, a lot of women that are raped or abused do not go forward, to report. Those who have the temerity to report are stigmatized. They say they won't have somebody to marry you, you have disgraced our family, blah blah blah, and all that stuff. You will see even families going to beg police or going to beg NGOs or any agency that wants to help in the prosecution of culprits. Say, please, let's settle it at home. Meanwhile, they forget that this child, this girl, or this woman will remain traumatized. And it could have a very terrible backlash on society.
But for Oluchi, who has conquered her fears and now makes a decent and profitable living, the case is different.
I felt a lot of people out there, needed to, know who I am, needed to hear my story. I'm a voice that has to be heard. People have to hear me, you understand? And when people hear me, more people that has gone through what I've gone through, we come out and also voice out their own experience. So that alone gave me the courage to keep pushing. I do 3 businesses. I do painting of cars. I'm also into interior decor, and I'm also into skincare. I've embraced what has happened to me. I was only a victim of circumstances. You don't have to hide it, because the more you hide it, the more you get depressed. But when you come out and voice it out, you understand, you get support, you get help. The advice I would give to the young people that are presently going through what I've gone through is, you don't have to take your own life. That's number 1. And then number 2, for you to have undergone such horror, yes, because it's a horror, for you to have undergone such horror and you still came out alive, it means that there's something God has destined for you. There's something in store for you. Because one thing I've come to realize with God is that God can't let you go through some certain things and allow you to be left behind. There's a plan, a big plan ahead.
Echoes from the Valley, telling the African story.